Hello, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. Today is, what is it today? February 27th already, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We hope you're having a great day. And joining me today is our lovely co-host. There she is in beautiful, warm Wisconsin.
Warm, snowy Wisconsin.
How you doing, Dawn?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a good day.
It's winter here again. We're hoping it's a last gasp.
Well, I won't tell you, but we're going to be about 73 today and about 79 tomorrow, then 80 and 83, and then back to 70.
Oh,
So
for you.
I won't tell you that. Though it is chilly at night for California. We've been in the 30s and 40s. So for us, that's cold.
Ofta.
I grew up in New York. This is like a vacation all the time.
Although your blood is thinner by now.
No, it isn't.
No?
No, I can go back into the cold. I'm just like, it's okay.
Go back to your roots, as it were.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to my roots. It's way too crowded in New York for my taste.
So you're going to Learning Solutions Conference. I'm
That should be
jealous.
fun. That should be fun. We're actually, we got invited by Yuri Yuskov. You met Yuri on the show.
Yep, a couple times.
We're going to be helping him out in the booth, and I'm doing a presentation for them, I think the 13th.
Oh.
So that should be fun. We'll have a good time.
Absolutely. I looked at doing a quick flight like Gina, and it's just so expensive that I couldn't justify the cost.
Yeah, I finally get to
Whole
meet
plane
Gina.
for-
So maybe after that we won't have any more Trek Tech shows. You never know.
Could be.
you.
For those of you that don't know, Gina does a show with Rick on Tuesdays. So, and she's going to dash down to Florida to meet Yuri in person and Rick in person, and I'll be home.
Yeah, we've done 2.5 years of shows and we've never met in person.
Wow.
I mean, we've crossed in the night about 5 times. It's just that we're always in the wrong place at the same time. So it's just been sort of interesting. She comes out to San Diego, which is only like 2-3 hours from us, and I'm back east. So it happens.
Well, Dave Kelly is going to be at Learning Solutions, so he's hoping to meet you in person.
Sounds
as well.
good. Sounds good.
I say, let's introduce our guest.
Let's. I'll let you do the honors.
Oh, okay. So I get to the privilege of introducing today's guest, and my little story about this is 111 years ago, something like that. You were one of the presenters at ASTD Leaders Day at International Conference, and I wanted to be you. And all these years later, we've reconnected on Facebook, and hopefully we'll reconnect in person one day soon. We have so many friends in common, and I'm looking forward to our time together. Welcome, Theresa.
Thanks for having me, Dawn. Yes, I remember that presentation.
It was a fun day. Packed room. Very packed.
Wonton soup for the chapter leader's soul.
That's right. It was just a really good day. It was a lot of energy, and I thought, I can do this. I was a brand new chapter president and didn't know very many people and didn't know anybody in the room. So you made it a good experience.
Well, thank you. Made a lot of good friends through the NAC and ASTD.
Yep, and they're sticking.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely.
Yeah, Wonton does that,
Wonton does.
Did we make any jokes about wonton foo, Wan Fu and all those movies and that stuff? I don't remember, but
Where's Julie Newmar, right?
yes, exactly. Patrick Swayze.
That was actually a funny movie.
And drag. So T, you're here to talk with us about.
We're going to look at the training profession, and Dawn and I had a conversation. There's a number of things we could have talked about today, but I think it would be kind of fun for those that have been around a while and for those that are also new to the profession to really look at where we've been, where we are now, and kind of look at the crystal ball. Where are we headed? And I thought, just to add a little humor to it, that we do a little trainer comedy to kick it off. What do you guys think?
That sounds great.
I'm all about it.
Little trainer comedy. I have a little Jeff Foxworthy kind of presentation for you. I have 14 ways to know you've been in training too long. Okay?
I've already been giggling silently, so I can't even wait.
And you guys are my audience. You have to laugh or I'm in trouble here. After a deep family discussion, you create breakout groups and ask them to come back in 10 minutes to debrief. You know you've been training too long. If you set up name tents at family dinners and encourage each participant to customize it to display their individuality, you've probably been training too long. This will hit home for you guys. If you remember when CBT was offered on a monochrome telex screen.
I had those.
We talked about those 2 weeks ago.
If you're still calling eLearning CBT, probably been training too long.
I just saw that in a blog the other day. I laughed out loud.
I mean, that's what it was.
That's right.
If you're trying to bring order in the house by using the Bob Pike attention technique, if you can hear me clap once, if you can hit the sound of my voice, clap twice. You have been training tue long.
Too long.
If you remember when cut and paste truly was cut and paste. Do we remember this?
Yesterday.
Rick, I remember being in the corporate training department, and we actually had a subscription to a magazine of clip art.
Oh, and yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a monthly thing that came. We were delighted. We were excited when it arrived.
You can still go to Barnes & Noble and find those.
It's crazy, but it was all we had.
Yep.
And we would
have one on the bookshelf right over here. It's embarrassing. Decorative Elements, I think it was called.
It's true cut and paste.
It was copy cut and paste.
It was.
And thus the name clip art.
Yes, because you truly did clip it and then paste it.
And then paste it, absolutely.
It was the old days.
Magic mending tape was a whole new thing to us.
Yeah, we just didn't have PCs then. So what else is old stuff? If before a holiday meal you ask each person to go around the table and share something about themselves that no one else would know, you've probably been training too long.
3 truths and a lie, yeah.
Yes. If your favorite catalog is from Oriental Trading Company, probably been training too long.
I know somebody who worked there. Yeah.
Or Trainer's Warehouse if you want to step it up a notch.
Oh, that's another one, yeah.
Trainer's Warehouse is if you have a little more money, you can do Trainer's Warehouse.
Right. Oh, a lot more money typically.
Yes, yes. Halfway there. If you no longer catch a buzz from the smell of Mr. Sketch markers, you've probably been training too long.
If you've had dots on your nose from smelling the Mr. Sketch markers,
you have probably been training too long. If you ask your friends and family to complete all the personality, behavior styles, and other assessments that you used in class, you've probably been training too long. If your workspace is filled with toys, crazy hats, and other non-business items, you've been training too long. This is a true test.
No comment.
I'm definitely surrounded by toys. If someone mentions the Mager 6-pack, and you know it's not an alcoholic beverage, you've probably been training too long. Anybody remember Mager 6-pack?
Well, I own it, but somebody borrowed my favorite book out of it, and so it's only a 5-pack these days. I own it in the little box case. Yes, I do.
Yep, that is traditional training stuff there. If you write learning objectives for your kids before leaving on family vacation, you've probably been training too long. 2 more. If you use PowerPoint to explain the birds and bees to your teenagers, you've probably been training too long. And last but not least,
I'd like to see the clip art for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We could use some clip art. Last one. If you ask your partner to complete an evaluation form after lovemaking, name optional. Name optional. You've been training too long. So there you go. Little trainer comedy for you guys.
Dawn, name optional.
Just.
She said that, not me.
Oh, it was her.
Smiley sheets. It gives a whole new meaning to smiley sheets.
That's funny.
Level 1 evaluation. Out there.
What did I tell you, Rick? This was going to be fabulous.
Yep, and that's it, guys. Show's over.
go. There you go.
Getting a lot of laughter comments out on the chat pod, so that's good. I have tears rolling down my cheeks. I don't know if you can see it. And I will not talk about the trainer toys and how I had to buy a new set of shelves to accommodate all of that stuff.
Yes. Well, it's required. Truly.
Absolutely.
And I have said to people, if you see a trainer that does not have Mr. Sketch markers, really question their credibility. I mean, that is a required tool.
Not only that, I buy a couple sets a year because I don't like it when they get yucky.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And now they've got that big set with all the really cool smells.
Yeah. They're not good for writing, but they smell good. So.
That's right. You just pass them around to the participants. It's an add-on.
We all have little dots on our noses.
This is it.
When I used to have bankers in my classes, it was usually the men. They'd be wearing three-piece suits, and they'd have dots on their noses from smelling the markers as we got started. So that was always a good look. I usually chose not to tell them because I didn't want them to wreck their cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing we know about Mr. Sketch markers, they're water-based, but it doesn't always wash off skin that quickly.
This is true. But it does not bleed through the paper, which is a beautiful thing.
That's the important thing. I was having this conversation last week. I should work for Sanford Penn.
Yes, they're wonderful. Well, we've come a long way, guys. We have come a long way. I entered the profession in the early 80s, which makes me crazy to think how long that's been. But we have really come a long way in a relatively short period of time.
Yes. Kind of at the speed of light, if you think about it.
It is. It is.
I think about, we were so excited when we got the LCD panel that plugged into the speaker's podium or the trainer's podium up in front, and it sat on top of an overhead projector.
Yeah.
Did you have those? Were you excited when you had those too?
Yes, absolutely.
And they were really expensive.
Now, do you guys remember having your overhead projector, your 600 slides, and you dropped them?
Oh,
no,
you know what helped? If you had, remember the little borders that you could put on your transparency slide, so at least if you could number them?
Yep. It was awful.
Well, they were a gift anyway because you could actually see the whole thing on the screen then, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
But
and when
I
you
do
were
remember
talking monochrome monitors, remember that there was a little blip of time when the screens were orange writing?
Yes,
right,
that was
right.
awful.
The amber screens. I think they were
Yes.
amber.
That was awful.
The good old days.
It was awful.
Hey, just to take you guys even further back, I started out doing computers with punch cards. So that...
Yes.
Oh. I heard tell of this.
Yes, that was just prior to my entering the workforce.
Yep.
T and I were talking yesterday. I went to work at a company, and I was already a Microsoft Office user and a Mac, back in the day, Apple user, and these people were having such a terrible time because shortly we were getting rid of WordPerfect and going to early iterations of Microsoft Office, and I couldn't even remember what that thing was called at the bottom of the screen, but the thing that they didn't want to lose was called Reveal Codes.
Oh, yeah. You can do
awesome.
that. You can do that with Microsoft. It's just that why would you?
Yeah. Why would you? They were addicted to that. They couldn't type anything.
And look, Microsoft came out with Clippy, so that tells you where Microsoft was.
Clippy, yes, Mr. Clippy. He's still in some versions. You can still find him.
I know, it's a Clippy, huh?
Leva is saying that she had her final project was in punch cards, and the rubber band broke.
Oh.
And the rubber band. I've had that happen.
Yeah, that would be. I assume it wouldn't run. I don't actually know programming. So.
And I've actually had that 500 presentation go on the floor, and it's like, oh no. Class just started. My 500 slides are all on the floor. That was fun.
So what did you do? Just change it up?
No, I had somebody from the class say, "Come here, you're gonna help me sort this."
I don't remember ever putting page numbers on, like Theresa said.
We had page numbers at the bottom, but it was really hard to read because it was not transparency. Yeah. So you had to kind of put it up towards the light, and you could see it, and then that was not.
You're
fun.
in a semi-dark room, and
no, actually, the room was bright, but because we hadn't really started yet, but it wasn't fun.
No. Oh, those were the good old days.
Would you guys like to take a walk down memory lane?
Love it.
All right, we're going to see if this this will go for me here. I'm going to do a little share screen. And we'll see if we can get the PowerPoint to go.
Okay, you're sharing your screen. We can see it. And there's your PowerPoint.
All right. I don't know if I can move that off there.
You can move that. You can move that to like the bottom of the top or something. That little box.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
All right. So we're going to take a walk from 1970 until now.
1970. Wow.
Yeah.
I graduated high school in 72.
If you look back at ASTD, that's about when ASTD started. So it all started facilitator-led, clearly a favorite. Programmed instruction was really popular, and that was, do you guys remember programmed instruction?
Yeah, I think we called it something else, but your explanation there, I know we had that.
Yeah, you would just have little workbooks, and it would teach you something, and then there would be a little quiz following the learning. And there's our favorite, transparencies, presentations using transparencies, and film strips. You could use the film strips, you could buy them, and it would have the little boop that you would change.
We didn't have
the next slide.
I was still in school.
There you go. So was I. 80s. This is when I joined training. Still doing facilitator-led, still doing programmed instruction, but this is when CBT was introduced, and I don't know if you, I know, Dawn, you remember Phoenix. That was a mainframe computer-based training program, which I am very proud to say I was an author for a number of years.
Yeah, I actually worked on it a little bit too.
Did you really?
Long time ago, yep. Green screen.
It was wonderful.
Green screen.
It was a green screen. We had to draw pictures using the characters on the keyboard.
My retina actually still has some of those images and just etched into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
we
crazy.
Didn't have it, but I heard about it. We didn't have anything that fabulous. We were still in copy and paste mode.
But that was our first entree into the world of electronic training. We also did video, and we would spend a lot of money creating corporate videos. We, when I worked at Prudential, we did one with the Muppets, believe it or not.
Wow. Oh yeah, they're based out there, so you could get the puppets locally.
Yes. So then we move into the 90s. You continue with your facilitator-led. We start to move into PC-based e-learning, like Toolbook, Icon Author. Quest was the first software that I used to create e-learning.
We talked about Quest the other day, didn't we, Rick?
I used all of those.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yep. And then I fell out of e-learning for a little while and started to get more in instructor-led, but this was back in my heyday.
Yep. I knew Allen Communications very well. They were good people.
They were good people. They were. Are they still around?
They are different groups running it. Some of the same people are still there. Obviously, the authoring tools are gone, Quest and all those. But yeah, Dr. Steve Allen and Rex Allen, they were just really good folks.
Cool.
In fact, if you remember, Marty Newey, he was one of their top instructional designers, always at their trade shows. Heck of a nice guy. He's still there, I think.
Cool. Well, they were great. We really enjoyed working with them. What else we got? Performance support systems, and we just started to get into distance learning. There was a tool we had at Prudential called IBM Liveboard. Anybody remember the Liveboard?
We didn't call it that, but a couple of places I worked had IBM Systems 3000s and so forth. So I probably used that, just didn't know it was called Liveboard. I took my distance learning certification in the late 90s. Through University of Wisconsin, so we were all on top of it then.
Now, Dawn, I thought in Wisconsin, distance learning is if you're one house apart from each other in winter.
And if you wanted to add a racially affected joke, there would probably be something about tin cans and strings. Especially when you live out in the boondocks like I do.
We'll move into the 2000s here. Continuing with facilitator-led, it still doesn't go away. Lots of web-based learning. A lot of courses now moved to the internet for access. LMS, CMS, web-based distance learning, WebEx, GoToMeeting, and here we are on Skype.
Go figure.
Yep. And here we are in the present. You continue with your facilitator-led, lots of web-based learning, and just a phenomenal array of electronic tools for performance support. So that's a little journey.
Should I sing? Ooh,
Yeah, and often the facilitator and often the facilitator-led now is often called blended e-learning or blended learning.
Yes.
blended approaches.
Yeah.
You know what's fascinating, though? All of us have, including the folks in the chat pod, and Rick and I come together because of Twitter more than anything, ASTD, Twitter, and we have this community of practice, or larger community of practices. But the number one thing we're still all talking about is, why isn't the quality of our learning intervention better? Why, so we've had this evolution, we've gotten better tools, and we're still having the same conversations.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because it's what we talked about right at the beginning of the show. We often have lawyer-led learning. So, you're not going to get a lot of good stuff out of that. It's all compliance crap, so pardon my expression. But,
Yep.
it's, we're not teaching them. We're basically inoculating the company from a lawsuit,
Yes.
and that's it.
You're ticking a box.
Yeah. Yeah, and other than that, that's not learning. It just get it out there, get it fast, and make everybody suffer for 1 to 4 hours a year on some sort of compliance course.
Well, and the government interferes too.
Well, that's
in
anyway.
healthcare for sure.
Yep.
We have stuff we have to do
Right.
annually.
And I've had a theory for years that no company really wants to do training. They have to do training.
This is true. Well, they're not making money from training. They're doing the training either because they're required to, or it's to help them make money.
Right. Right. But I think
Like
that's
us.
why we haven't seen that huge shift in terms of getting better training. And there is good training out there. It's just that it's not the norm in terms of what you're allowed to do.
Yeah. I think good companies get it, though.
They do.
I think they're few and far between, but I think good companies get it, and that's where the good trainers really wish they could work.
Yeah.
It's true. The Leva brings up a point. She said, it seems like trainers and facilitators and teachers will always discuss the same topics and have the same complaints. So my questions are a couple-fold. Why do we believe that? Are we perfectionists? Are we always behind the curve instead of ahead of the curve? Just a thought. And you worked with the international group in your most recent employment. Is the same thing true for your situation there, Theresa?
There were definite differences between our U.S. and our U.K. colleagues. What I found, and this was, when I say U.K., it was Northern Ireland, which is really a culture unto itself. I found they did a lot of training for the sake of training, and people were kind of okay with that. It's just how it is. So when you got good training over there, it blew their mind. It blew their mind to have a trainer that, for one thing, was somewhat entertaining and had stories to tell and would weave things in to make it interesting and interactive. It was definitely different. In the U.S., I think it's become an expectation, particularly as our audience, that newer generation, comes in. You better be credible. You better have something to engage them and hold their interest. That was a big difference that I saw.
It seems interesting to me. Ireland is known for its legend, lore, and storytelling, so it would seem like stories would be inherent.
They certainly appreciate it. There's no doubt about it. But I think most of the training they received was, just like you said, Rick, it was done because it had to be done. We were in the pharmaceutical industry. It's highly regulated.
Right.
And the vast majority of the training was related to compliance.
So, where do you think the industry is going?
Well, definitely we're leaning towards more and more electronic delivery of training. And it's not just in our corporations, but also in our universities. And I think that's really going to change the landscape. And also, we need to be mindful as training professionals to manage our skill set appropriately. I love facilitated training. It's my bread and butter. but I have to be able to speak to, and just like today, I have to use Skype, I have to use WebEx, I have to know what the tools are out there, because that is really where the profession, I think, is going.
Yeah, I keep telling people that work with us or other people that we've contracted, 3 words: know your tool.
Yes.
Because nowadays it is about tools. Whether you're doing an authoring tool, like you said, Skype or WebEx or whatever it is, PowerPoint, you need to know your tool. And it's amazing how many people don't know their tools or barely know their tools. Actually, there's one thing I find really interesting, especially with the youth. They do 5 minutes of PowerPoint and say, I know PowerPoint really well.
Yes.
Really?
That's right.
Cool. Okay, hey, do this for me. How do you do that? You just said you knew PowerPoint really well. It's kind
Still
of like
learning PowerPoint,
Yeah, you have
because
to
I
kinda-
don't have a lot of use for the higher end features. So when I want to use them, I really have to dig in.
Right. No, but I'm talking about the downplaying of real we don't have a society of experts. We have a society of quasi-experts who think they know what
Yes.
they're doing, and that's the scary
Yes.
part.
It's that
It
whole
is.
I know just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, wait till you get a pilot who goes, I think I can fly this. Cool.
Right. It's like they think if they can launch the application, they in fact have mastered it.
Exactly.
And that is not the case.
No, it's
But I do think it's challenging for today's training professionals. One, as we saw over the decades, just how complex it's gotten. You used to be, 70s, 80s, you used to be able to have the whole ball of wax. Now you almost are forced to specialize.
Yeah.
You need to know a little about everything. And if you look at ASTD's new competency model, you'll see what that entails. But it would be impossible for anyone to be 100% in every one of those competencies.
Right. So we should actually have an incompetency model. That would be good.
Well, I think you need to pick what is your gift, what is your market, what is your joy, who's going to pay you for it, and really focus on 1 or 2 things and do them very well. I like everything. Everything's a shiny pebble. So I want to be an e-learning author, and I want to be management training, and I want to do executive coaching. But I'm going to water them all down if I'm trying to do them all well. You just can't. So you need to pick and choose, but you must be able to speak to all of the competencies that are in that model.
Well, especially if you're managing a team, I think, knowing, especially from a succession planning mindset, helping people be successful, that's kind of the reason we do the work we do, all of us, regardless of whether there's E in front of it or it has a technology component, etc. I think we wouldn't be in this profession if we weren't really about other people's success, probably more than our own. I think you have to know how to have the conversation about what's coming down the road, and are you planning for that? I'm posting the competency model link right now in the chat pod. ASTD just recently revealed an update to the competency model, and it is the roadmap for our profession, especially in the United States and Canada. I think there are some European countries that are still trying to decide if they're going to link onto that or not. But especially if we want to help other people be successful, our goal is to teach other people our job, right? So we can retire and live the good life, as it were.
Retire? What country are you living in?
Yeah, well, you and I'll be doing this show 30 years from now because I'll still be working.
I don't know if you guys can see it, but I put the competency model up.
Yes.
And this is the brand new one. So you'll see it is pretty broad. And certainly the foundational competencies.
Now we are a pentagon.
Yes. Yeah. A little bit different than what they had before, because they had like a pyramid before.
Yeah, but it wasn't really it wasn't a pyramid in the sense of you start at the base and work up, but it was kind of organized from the broader categories.
Well, it came out of the basic food group pyramid.
It did.
Or Maslow's hierarchy.
That's right.
So I need to spend a little time. I worked with the group early on in some of the updates and the panel talking about what to add, what maybe isn't necessary anymore, but haven't been involved in well over a year. So I need to get refocused on this language.
Yeah, and I think the challenge is how do you, and it's funny, last week I was at Training Directors Forum, and one of the things Bob Pike asked us to do, because he was facilitating our session, he said, I want you to line up by years of experience. And we had probably 100 or so people in that room, and I was fifth in the line in terms of years of experience. I thought, my God, I'm old. How did this happen? But the message for me in that day was, Theresa, what are you doing to keep yourself relevant, fresh, on top of all of this stuff? Because it is changing exponentially. And I think we need to be very mindful of making sure our skill set and our knowledge is up to date. And it's a discipline. It's really a discipline to do it. Forcing myself out the door to go to ASTD and SHRM and ISPI meetings, participating on conference calls like today, reading our magazine. Who are the thought leaders? Going to conferences. Because even if you've gotten your master's degree in, instructional systems design, some adult learning field, boy, it just doesn't end there.
Nope. You think you're done, and then you've got to start over on something new, because the world has evolved that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
World of training, development, learning, whatever moniker you want to put on it,
Well, we're also kind of in a world of learning by snippets right now. Everything's in little snippets.
140 characters or less.
Yeah, that's true.
And, to the point of what came up a little bit ago, this whole flipped classroom situation is so common in elementary schools here now, that digital delivery, doing pre-work, coming in for just one-on-one coaching as I need it, and feedback, I suppose, is parallel to that, is how the students of today are going to be learning in our colleges and learning in our corporate settings tomorrow.
Yes.
They're no longer going to be willing to sit for a day, 2 days, 6 weeks in a classroom having information being pushed at them. So if we aren't willing to start thinking in those terms now, we're already late.
Well, I think what's really sad is that if you go into the average school, we're dealing with 20-week semesters. I could think of nothing more torturous than a 20-week semester, and I spent most of my high school and college in 20-week semesters. It was horrific. The teachers weren't that good usually to warrant 20 whole weeks of listening to them, and
the curriculum.
And the curriculum, which is, people learn better in much shorter time. I used to love summer school. 6 weeks, get all the hard classes done. Loved it. 20 weeks of one class was just sheer torture.
You can only have one excused absence.
Well, yeah, we didn't care about absences that much that I remember.
We did. Small college.
But I tell you, it was just, I remember that. By about the second week, I was, are we done yet? Are we there yet?
Shiny object syndrome. I've had that my whole life.
Yeah, my daughter's going to University of Phoenix, and I think their classes are 5 weeks.
Yeah.
That's great. It's all online, 5 weeks. Oh, that just makes sense to me.
Quick hit. And a lot of the accelerated degree programs are like that, where it's a quick hit.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I don't like about it is, so far, and I'm making a blanket statement across the board, and it may or may not be accurate, so don't quote me, but they've taken the same amount of content and squished it into a shorter time frame. They haven't streamlined the content to make sense in the time frame. Has been my experience.
That does happen sometimes.
I think we have to get at it. It's still this tick box mentality of checking off completion rather than real competency,
Right. And so that model's out there. That's how we run our corporate universities.
But especially in the public universities, because now you've got the government mixed in, screwing things over even more, saying you have to do certain things so that you get paid for it.
Right.
And so as a result, you're not worried. Look at what happened with No Child Left Behind. That was an absolute joke. Good idea, total joke. It only became schools prepping kids for tests, not for life, for tests.
And, if we're honest, look at all the tests that we passed in high school and college. Could you pass them now?
No.
No. So what good did that? I mean, passing a test measures competency in that moment.
That's right. And on any given day, you could probably pass or fail that same test.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it's just,
I think about how nervous I was to take the SAT, how nervous I was to take the ACT, because those were, standards and expectations for going into college. And I was a bad test taker, still am. I was so nervous. What good is that? What did it really show? I knew how to spell. Okay, The rest of it was an objective test. I picked the right letter. So it's fascinating.
Just know there are people working on reform, and I know that. I think they're not very large voices, but they are working on reform. And I think the business world is starting to see we can't keep doing what we've always done. I have people entering, and I say I have people entering. I just left my corporate job a few weeks ago, but people enter the workforce with bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and are just not prepared to work.
no, that's true.
Really, it's sad.
And the sadder thing is that the universities tell these kids, oh, you're going to get out and make $100,000 a year, and hey, you've already paid your dues.
Yeah.
Hardly. There's no experience.
I think there is a market for preparing people for work in addition to college. Like, I think there is, and if that's part of what I make my living at. I
Like
teach
a
at
boot
Temple
camp.
University in their non-credit program, and our non-credit programs are actually preparing people for work.
Yep, that's true.
It is. It's the real stuff. It's how do you get along with coworkers that drive you crazy? How do you manage a project? What do you do if you have all these conflicting priorities? How do you solve a problem?
Right.
These are the things that make you valuable in the workplace. And it's not often woven into some of our degree programs.
That's true.
It's never woven in that I know of. Doesn't mean I know about all places, but
Yep.
How do they get students to attend, or how is it through the student union in a non-degree program?
Usually the non-credit courses are people that are already out in the workforce and running the gamut from 20 years old to I've had people over 70 in my classes. And either their corporation signs them up or they seek it out themselves and sign up.
That's the best kind of student. They want to be there. So.
Yeah. Every now and then I call them prisoners, people who were made to go. Because I have a course on interpersonal skills and making your
they
point.
want to fix them.
Yes, and they send them to me saying, spend 6.5 hours of formal training to fix a lifetime of things that they have learned. But they leave better than when they came in. I feel convinced of that.
And believe it or not, guys, we are at about 40 minutes, and we're at the end of the show.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. Time goes fast.
That was quick. Well, we had a nice look at where we've been, where we are, where we're headed. Some good food for thought.
I want to think about the future. That's good food for thought. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And the laughs. The laughs.
Yeah, and a little trainer comedy. I had to weave some comedy in because I'm a comedian, and that's just the law.
Yep.
That's
Well,
how she
Theresa,
rolls.
it's been a pleasure meeting you. Look forward to seeing you again sometime real soon. And Dawn, you have a good one. Stay
You too.
warm.
Thank you both.
Stay warm out there.
Thanks
All
for
right,
being in
take
the
care,
chat pod.
guys.
If you're watching the show, please subscribe. And if you like a show, like it. We appreciate
Like
that.
it. Like us.
Leave
We like-
comments.
we like-
We'd like to hear from you. And if you're in the chat room, thanks for being there. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.